In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. Really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Before we kick off this new theme month, I just want to shout out our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Brian has done a fantastic job with it. All of our episodes and interviews are on there if you want to check out episode 1 to episode 223. All of our interviews are on there as well in a specific tab. A lot easier to find those great interviews instead of thumbing through all of iTunes or Spotify. So definitely check out the website. We got our blog. We all wrote some think pieces. Check those out. Horror fans love sharing their opinions, and we love discussing with our fans. We got our store, new t-shirts, new apparel. Check those out. And we have Shannon's Etsy page attached if you want to grab a tumbler. They're selling like crazy. And shout out our social media. Like I just mentioned, we love talking to our fans, interacting. We got a ton of fan questions tonight. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow us, like us, subscribe us, all that good stuff. Like I just said, we love interacting with our fans. We've just uploaded some of our biggest fans' reviews on our website, and it's truly amazing. We were all talking about in our chat. We got people from Australia, Canada, all over the United States, England, Germany, writing reviews, and we're just 4 guys, and it truly means the world to us that we've got fans all over the world, literally, giving us praise about our podcast. So it means the world to us. And the last thing I want to shout out before we get into the review is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We got the traditional monthly reoccurring kind, and we fully acknowledge that the economy stinks right now. Times are tough. Not easy to spend money loosely like that, but it goes directly back into the podcast. It really takes a big burden off of us, and we truly appreciate any help. And we also have one-time donations. If you're a big fan of a movie and you want us to review it, just check out our website for that. Tonight, we're kicking off Brother Dustin's theme and Brother Brian's pick. Dustin, you want to announce your theme, and then Brian can announce the pick?
Yeah. So this month I went with monster movies. Now, when I say monster movies, basically it's just a very loose term. Anything that's not human or spirit as the evil in the movie. So I was excited to pick this. There's a lot of good options, including the one Brian picked.
Yeah, and first of all, it's nice to be back this week after doing, 200 plus episodes, hell, almost 250 at this point, I guess. It's weird to really miss any. It's part of our lives, so I have huge FOMO whenever I miss an episode. But I actually went with a movie that Nico said was overdue last week, and I agree with him. 2018's A Quiet Place. As far as this movie goes, I know a lot of times we just kind of pick movies because we feel like it would be a good discussion or whatever. But this is definitely not one of those times for me. I love this movie. I love the sequel too, actually, but we'll cover that another time. It doesn't hurt that, even before I saw this movie, I loved Krasinski and Emily Blunt, which this may date the show, but they need to 100% be Reed Richards and Sue Storm in the MCU permanently. I mean, I think you agree with me, Dustin.
Yes.
But apparently Krasinski was unsure about directing his wife, and Blunt was unsure about being in it. So Amy Adams and Hathaway were briefly considered for the role of Evelyn. And I love both of them, but I'm so glad they didn't go that route because the chemistry to me is off the charts for obvious reasons. And the rest of this cast is just phenomenal to me, especially, Millicent Simmons, who was deaf in real life. And sometimes, everything just comes together perfectly with casting, directing, writing. And to me, this is one of those times that it did. I have very little complaints about this one, so I'll be counting on you guys to nitpick for the most part with this one. But
all right, I'll go ahead real quick. I don't dislike this movie. I like this movie, but whenever I saw the trailer for this movie when it came out, 2017, 2018, whenever it was, I was very excited to see this because I was texting with some friends, and we were like, "Man, that looks really good." Saw it, and I was just a little disappointed, but I'll say this movie has very high highs and just some stuff that just bothers me from a why would you do that perspective kind of thing. acting phenomenal. Movie looks great. There's hardly any dialogue, but that doesn't even bother me just because the body language, the facial language, it's very good. But my complaints are just, why the hell would you do this? And we've kind of coined we didn't coin it, but we got that man fuck them kids awards, and I just feel like there's a lot of awards you could give out in this movie because it's like your parents, and like the only thing you have really to do right now is just keep your kids alive and stay alive. And I just feel like there's a lot of, and if you watch the cinema sins on this, there's just so many nitpicks on this. It's like, why is this kid doing this, or why are you doing this while your kids do? It's frustrating, but
that's how having kids in real life is.
I
All the
understand.
time, you're like, "Why the fuck are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" You're
Shit, that's like
alive.
hey, that's like being married to me. Ask my wife. Same thing.
And Brian, like you just said, and that's a great point. But it's like, I know you're grieving a grieving couple, but why would you bring another child into this world at this time? I think that's just a big frustration of mine. With a lot of other things with their kids, but like I said, acting is great. Very sincere moments. I mean, and I know me and Micah and everyone was talking about this before the show. I'm not a dad, but I am an uncle. I have a niece and a nephew that I care about deeply. So I know what it's like to love someone, and I would hate to lose them or be in that kind of situation where I have to protect them. But Mike, you want to go ahead and go next?
Yeah, man, I'm more in line with Brian here. I love this movie. Like, I think it knocks it out of the park. It's beautifully shot. I mean, this movie visually looks phenomenal. There's so many really good shots, and I wrote down my favorites in my notes just because I didn't want to forget them. And it's really good that this movie doesn't have a lot of dialogue. I can almost take in those shots better because, again, really, really beautifully shot movie. I think the acting is great from top to bottom. And there's really only 4 characters in the film, and all 4 play their part to perfection. I mean, I think the child actors are great. I think Emily Blunt, John Krasinski are phenomenal, especially in the 2 big scenes they kind of have together. I love it. I understand people's frustration with this film as far as logic, leaps in logic. I am willing to forgive those leaps in logic personally because I think the story is so strong. And I think I worded it perfectly before the show, not to toot my own horn. But this movie is a family drama with horror themes. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think that works so well. The family dynamic, loss of a child, grieving, all that other stuff. Look, no one gets more mad that they brought another child into this world than I do. Yeah. But I am almost, there's one point in the movie where and there's a scene, I wrote it down, that I'm willing to forgive them for doing it because I can put myself in their shoes and almost understand where they're coming from.
Well, hey, maybe it wasn't on purpose. I mean, that's something they kind of leave up for interpretation.
Okay, fair enough. I won't argue with you there, buddy. But yeah, I look, really like this movie. I think it wraps up a story so nice, ends on a cliffhanger. We'll talk about the sequel another time. I wish that movie didn't exist. I think it doesn't water down this movie. I watched this twice, and every single time this movie is able to get a real tear out of me, and that is tough to do. Radio is the only other movie that does that. When Radio's mom dies, that just kills me every time. I never get over it. But yeah, excited to talk about it. Great pick, Brian. It is overdue. I completely agree with Nico.
Yeah, I actually watched this movie not that long ago for the first time. It was a couple weekends ago. Let me see. I've got it right here. But anyway, I watched it. I guess it was on the 30th of July. Watched it for the first time and really liked it. And or maybe it was a little bit before that. I don't know. Regardless, I was happy when I announced or when we discussed the theme for this month, and I said monster movies, and Brian said he was picking this. I was happy about that because I really enjoyed the movie so much. Watched it again, obviously, to prep for this show, and liked it just as much. I mean, it's got a high rewatchability factor for me. The runtime's great. The most impressive thing that this movie does is captivate you without spoken word. That's really hard to do for me. You know,
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
a movie to not have dialogue or have very very little dialogue, and still keep the viewer's eyes on the screen and not have them get bored with it is so impressive. They use such an effective usage of the sounds that we do get, the sounds of nature and the sounds of everyday life. The score is great when it's used, and so I think this movie is a very good movie. I do have nitpicks as well, which I'll get into. That are some are I'm sure shared nitpicks with you guys, and some maybe unique to me. That's fine, but strong performances all around, and atmosphere is great. Just good movie.
Absolutely. Any more opening thoughts before we jump into the scene by scene?
Yeah, I just wanted to note real quick. I have it in a few scenes in my notes, but I hate repeating myself. So I just want to say this movie, when they do talk, is very weird. It's a strange thing to experience to me, to have this movie with no dialogue, and then when you finally get some dialogue, it feels out of place almost. Not in a bad way, but it's just like, oh yeah, the people talk, okay. Because you go a good 40 minutes without hearing spoken word. You really do. And then when you finally get some, you're kind of like, oh yeah, people talk. And I think that's done masterfully. Like I can't express how much I enjoy that like weird feeling I got when I'm like, oh yeah, people talk. Like it's just weird to hear their voice. So I think they pulled that off perfectly.
Yeah, to me, it almost makes it, when they do talk, it actually makes it better. It makes it more important.
Absolutely.
And they don't waste that. Like, to me,
Nope.
almost everything they say is very important, I guess. It moves the plot. It makes everything better, in my opinion.
Brian, that's the point. The two big scenes where there's talking, they're both phenomenal, and they mean that much more because you don't hear them the rest of the film. So great job.
Before I jump into the scene by scene, I just want to throw out a quick disclaimer. In my scene by scene, if I say this character says something to this character, it's in sign language. When you're watching a movie and typing, it's not easy to say sign language to the mom sign language to the daughter.
I think
Absolutely. Signed. Yeah.
Signed, yeah.
Um, real quick, I'm so glad you said that. I thought it was really cool that they went with sign language. I thought it was awesome. The cast learned it. I think it's a great display of how important it could be for everyone to probably learn, maybe not full sign, but learn some stuff in sign. Like I think it's a very cool way that they did that and put it on Front Street. I enjoyed that.
Well, up until the last second, they weren't even going to have subtitles, because I mean, for the most part, you can kind of figure out what they're saying. But I'm so glad they went with subtitles, because to me, it makes it so much better. It would have been.
There's one copy I watched that had them, and one copy I watched that didn't. I won't.
Well, then you can. How was it then? How was it without the
Doesn't take away from the performance.
Okay, well there you go.
All right, let's jump into the scene by scene. Day 89. We see a traffic light on the ground and this town is abandoned. We see missing people flyers hung up on this board, and this grocery store is abandoned. We see a little boy running up and down the aisles and a young girl walking down another. Evelyn is looking through the medicines for her son to take. Evelyn smiles at her daughter, Reagan, telling her Marcus is okay. Reagan sits with Bo, and he does a rocket motion with his hand. Bo says that's how we'll get away in sign language. Bo reaches on a shelf and knocks over a toy rocket, but luckily Reagan catches it, saving them from making any noise. Lee tells Bo to go find his mother as he puts a radio in his bag and other tools. Evelyn says it'll be dark soon, so they need to head back. Lee takes the toy rocket from Bo and removes the batteries. Lee tells him it's too loud. The family exits the store, but not before Reagan grabs the rocket and hands it to Bo, and he grabs the batteries as they leave. We see a sand path for them to walk on the pavement. They're walking on a train track now and make it to a path in the woods. As the family crosses a bridge, we hear the toy rocket make a loud noise, and their faces go blank and into shock. Lee runs full speed to his son, but a monster in the woods grabs the boy and escapes. Title card, day 472. We see Reagan lying down on the sand in a cornfield. She gets up as Evelyn walks up and carries the basket of corn for her. We see a monitor watching them and newspapers and whiteboards on how these monsters can hear you. Lee has confirmed there are 3 in the area. Lee sends out an SOS message, but to no luck. Marcus is outside in the truck pretend driving. He sees his father walk up to him and he climbs out the window. Marcus walks inside a bunker where his mother is. We see she's pregnant and setting up a crib for their baby. Lee sits on top of a silo and looks at pictures and belongings of his dead son. Evelyn closes the crib as Lee lights a fire and looks at nature around him. Evelyn gets the food out the oven and sends Reagan to get her dad for dinner. The family's at the dinner table now quietly getting their food, and they hold hands to pray. Reagan and Marcus are now playing Monopoly, and she accidentally knocks over a kerosene lantern. Lee jumps on it quickly, putting the fire out, and puts up the sign to be quiet. The family isn't moving as they wait to see if they were heard. They hear a flock of birds flying away, and they hear a loud crash on their roof. Lee looks out the window, and they're jump scared as some raccoon fall to the ground. Everything's safe for now. We see something grab the raccoon, killing it as it walks away. Lee is trying to put together a cochlear implant to help Reagan's hearing. Evelyn walks into the room with him and hugs his neck from behind. The two joke with each other lovingly, and now they dance together. They share earbuds and slow dance together as Lee presses hands on her stomach and kisses her forehead. Day 473, and we see Lee putting more sand out on the trail. Evelyn checks her blood pressure, and she checks her stomach in the stethoscope, listening to her baby's heartbeat. Brian, what'd you think about the powerful opening scene?
Yeah, the opening to this is fantastic. Right off the bat, it kind of sets this tension that just doesn't let up this entire movie, in my opinion. I love the way it just kind of drops you right in the middle of it all, like boom, day 89. And I'll admit, when I see stuff like that, sometimes now, like I'm almost disappointed because I expect it to be like not linear, like they Tarantino it, and show me the end first, and then over the flip, go back to the beginning. And over the years, honestly, I've kind of gotten to where I don't really like that anymore, if that makes sense. On the flip side, I'm a huge fan of being thrown right in the middle of the story and having to piece together organically kind of what's happened. So I freaking love that choice. But this opening is just, it's holy shit. It's great. Fun fact, this opening sequence was actually the last to be shot, as it required John Krasinski to shave most of that luscious beard he has going on during the rest of this movie. Also love the attention to detail in the grocery store sequence because you could see all the shelves are bare except the potato chips because they make the most noise. Attention to detail like that, I love all throughout this movie. And the entire setup here with losing the son, it's heartbreaking scene, 100%, just devastating. But something else it does is almost set up Reagan's being deaf as I don't want to say weakness, but like an obstacle to overcome here. And yeah, it costs them with Bo being killed, obviously. But what I really love about that is by the end, it becomes a strength and saves the rest of their family. Spoiler alert. It's just an arc that I love so much that you may not grasp until, subsequent viewings. The camera work to me is amazing. Big shout out to Krasinski and the director of photography, Charlotte Christensen. She actually worked on Emily Blunt's The Girl on the Train as well. But these shots of like just their feet on the ground, they're great anyway, but showing, them walking on sand to not make noise. Also, these creatures, I think they look fantastic. Showing Evelyn being pregnant by hanging the non-noise making, fish bed toy thing. And it just shows you a glimpse, not making it obvious. I thought it was great. I thought it was genius work. These creatures, by the way, they almost look like the Starship Troopers, like bugs. But also this sort of design kind of reminiscent of like a bunch of different ones, I think. It's almost a go-to design now. We've seen it in Stranger Things, to an extent. We've seen it in a bunch of different places. And I think that's kind of a go-to, like I said. Production designer Jeffrey Beecroft headed the creature design, and special effects supervisor Scott Farrar created these creatures. I think they look fantastic. The last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up. I was listening to another YouTuber, and I won't say their name, but they complained that a nitpick was that it seemed like they had unlimited electricity at this house, and that, it was just a nitpick of theirs. But this set of scenes right at the 25-minute mark shows the solar panels on the side of the house, so that explains that away. Anyway,
I'm glad you said that because I didn't notice it.
Yeah, that's
and I have it in my notes, like not in this set of scenes because whatever, but later I was like, how the hell they have electricity?
They did not make it a point to show it. That's for sure. Very good, but you had to look for it. But right at the 25-minute mark, you can see the solar panels on the side of the barn house. Anyway, just a set of scenes, set with, just not tension and violence, but some really beautiful family moments as well, that kind of develop all these characters. It goes along kind of what Mike said at the beginning. I think it does so much without saying a word, and it's so good. Go ahead.
Yeah, they may have had unlimited electricity, but they sure didn't crank the air very much because they sweat their ass off this entire movie. Anyway, I guess the AC would probably make noise. That makes sense. Yeah, right off the bat here, the silence, the no noise is very noticeable. I think it makes for good tension. It's very creepy. This opening shot does a great job of making or putting me right where they are in this desolate, post-apocalyptic, for lack of a better term, kind of wasteland they're in. Again, I already mentioned it, but sign being the main form of communication, I think is really cool, especially when you know the story about the actress teaching everyone how to do it. I think that's awesome. I love the acting, the facial expressions, the urgency that this family has to not make a sound comes across really, really early on here, especially when she catches the can or the medicine. I caught myself in this set of scenes asking myself, would you go through all of this to survive? I think if you put yourself in the shoes of someone with a family like Brian, of course you would. But my own shoes, I probably would have. I make way too much noise. I'm loud. I can't tiptoe for shit, man. I'd have been screwed in this world. I would have died real early on, probably.
If I was with Emily Blunt, yeah, I'd do everything I could to keep us alive and
You want to just take my old catchphrase and adopt it? Just do it, buddy. It's okay. You can have it, man.
She can't call me. It makes too much noise. She could text me sometime though.
That's a good point. Hey, that'll be the new phrase. Text me sometime. Okay, but your heart breaks for Bo here because he's a little kid. He doesn't quite understand all of this, and you could tell it comes across well. I mean, he's not a dumb kid. He's just a little kid. He doesn't quite get the urgency in which him not getting this toy is important. But again, that's the reason you got to keep your eye on him because this man grabs those batteries because, again, he can't quite wrap his head around why he's not allowed to play with this plane. This right here has a great overhead shot when it comes over the bridge. I think, again, director of photography, the cinematography, all that really, really well done. I think they get so many good shots. All the shots of them walking as a family, I think, in this early set, really well done.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, from the side, from behind, like I think it all looks really, really good. I love once we realize the rocket goes off, how they change to everyone's different perspective from hearing it. Especially when you get Reagan, who every time we get Reagan's perspective, I think it's so well done. Like there is just something about being in her shoes, not being able to hear what's coming or what's happening is powerful. And having to watch everyone else's reaction around her as her through her eyes, I think is really, really well done. I think the monster looks good. Hopping out of nowhere was fantastic. Kind of scared the shit out of me the first time I ever saw this movie. Not going to lie. It's hard to get me to kind of jump at something. But when when those things swipe, it's over. Dora the Explorer ain't walking through that door. Swipe or no swiping. I don't think so. This thing's gone, man. So I wrote down, wouldn't risk laying outside in the sand in this world, but that's just me. Very true. Sorry, Reagan. I don't think I'd be out there, kind of laying around. Marcus pretending to drive is one of my favorite scenes because you could tell he just, man, all this life experience that you knew, this life you knew before is gone. It's out of here. And so I really like that. It's absolutely irresponsible to bring a child into this world. I've never grieved the loss of one, so I can't put myself in their shoes. And I understand maybe it was their only way to have a will to live. But man, you still have your two kids that are alive and well to think of. I don't care how soundproof you make things. It just seems like a really bad plan. So if I have a nitpick with the film, I think it's that. The aerial shots of their house from far away, I love. Skyline shots, I love. I'm not going to lie, that smoked fish looks a little suspect. I'm not going to complain too much because food is food, especially in this world, but suspect at best. You could get shredded with how you eat, though. you can tell this family has tension after the death of Bo. And that's something I think carries on throughout the film into the last set of scenes where they love each other, but there's something that hangs over their head, some kind of darkness that's not the monsters.
And that's given with no dialogue.
Yeah,
That's
no
what's
dialogue.
so brilliant
Yes,
about that.
that exactly. Words right out of my mouth, Brian, is they don't have to say anything. We know. You can tell by their faces and the atmosphere around it. And I know they have to be quiet, but there's not even any like little smiles, little laughter. There's nothing. It is clear that there is some tension at the dinner table there. I wouldn't let these kids play board games ever again. If you can't play board games without breaking a lantern, you definitely couldn't be Amish, that's for sure. Oh, sorry. Is that offensive? My bad. It's really sweet that he wants to finish this earpiece, because you could tell just off that dinner scene, she blames herself for the death of her brother. And, she thinks her dad does too. We know that's not the case, but she doesn't. And I think having him learn about the ear and all that stuff, I think it's really great. The scene with Lee and Evelyn dancing is one of my favorites. Harvest Moon, I think it's awesome. Their on-screen chemistry is great. Makes sense because the real life situation. I will say, last thing, 473 days without barely making a sound. I couldn't do it. So I'm proud of this family for being able to stick it out. Also, something I thought was really smart was continuing to lay the sand so they could keep track of themselves. As much of the dumb decisions that this family makes, I think that's one of the smart ones to just kind of, keep a trail so they can make it back home. I think laying the sand is smart. That's all I had. So that's the most I have on any set of scenes.
All right, so yeah, I love the score that we get right off the bat, and then it immediately goes to silence and a great look at Apocalyptic Town here. That's a great opening shot there. Great job making the whole town look desolate and abandoned. Looks like something that was shot out of the Walking Dead early season. So that was great. Well done. I wish, this is a very minor nitpick here, but I wish that they would have established more that she was deaf. Like, we kind of just figured it out on our own as we go, because if you know the premise of the movie, you know that they can't talk. So the sign language thing makes sense. But then we find out, oh, one of them's actually deaf. So that's why they knew sign language. I don't know. It's very minor. I don't know how they would have done it or how I would have preferred that they do it, but I do wish that it would have been established somehow earlier than it was. But then, man, this is a disobedient ass couple of kids. And the small child you can understand because he's small. He doesn't know any better. He just wants his rocket. But the girl, she's old enough to know better, man. And for her to just be like, here, take the rocket, blah, blah, blah. And then, honestly, though, leaving the rocket and the batteries right there on the counter like that, that's irresponsible. Like, he's not going to pick those batteries up. Come on. Put them up higher. Great shot of the bridge here as they're walking, where all the tragedy takes place. The bridge is actually the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail Bridge in New Paltz, New York. So you can go visit it if you're so inclined. But great set here. And I like that we get action, and I don't like that we get the death of a small child, but I like that we get action and a death just 10 minutes into the movie. So they do a very good job of establishing the atmosphere and the mood and the tempo of the movie very early on. We get to the house, and this is also a nitpick. The newspapers that are everywhere that says, "It sounds, stay silent, stay alive," or "They can hear you" on the newspapers. How did those newspapers get printed? Do you have any idea how loud a printing press is? So if they're running printing press and after they figured out that the sound is it, those papers would have never made it to the public. So I'm not buying that. That's a nitpick, sure. Overall, though, this is a very good opening. It does a good job of grabbing and maintaining your attention, which I mentioned. That's a tall task considering there's no dialogue. This opening set of scenes, there's not a word spoken verbally. It's just signed. And for me to just like not even feel the need or the urge to pick up my phone and scroll, because I do that when I watch movies a lot of times. If you don't have my attention from the get-go, I'm going to scroll and kind of watch you in the background. Don't have that urge in this movie because it's so strong in the acting chops that we get. So, yeah, overall, good set of scenes, and I'm in.
All right, Reagan tiptoes into a house, turning on a light to a basement, but is grabbed by Lee. He says, "You can't go down there, and you know why." She says she won't make a sound. He says, "Please," and he now gives her the implant to try, and she says it never works. He says he'll keep trying until it does. She pushes his hand away as he tries to put it in her ear. She says, "Stop, just stop." He puts the cochlear implant into her hand and walks away. Evelyn is homeschooling Marcus now as Lee walks inside. He says it's time to go. Marcus says, "Please don't make me go." Evelyn says, "You'll be fine. Your father will protect you always. Listen to me. It's important you learn these things. He wants you to be able to take care of yourself and me when I get old and gray." Marcus smiles as Evelyn says, "Don't worry." Lee and Marcus are arguing as Marcus says he doesn't want to go. Reagan says she'll go, but Lee tells her to stay and help her mother. "I want to go," Reagan says again. He says, "Stay here and be safe." Reagan storms away mad. Lee tells Evelyn next time. Reagan goes into her room tossing the implant and she sits down. She picks up the implant and tries it out, but she still can't hear any better. She begins to cry in frustration. She packs up a bag as it cuts to Lee and Marcus by a stream of flowing water. He checks the traps to see they've caught a fish. He drops it and grabs Marcus, who fears the monsters will hear them. Lee tells him the river is loud. They won't hear small sounds. Big sounds are okay as long as they're by this river. He says he wants to show him something. We see Reagan walking away from their home. Evelyn is doing laundry, and she grabs a laundry bag and carries it up the stairs. It catches a nail that now sticks straight up on the step. Lee and Marcus are behind a waterfall now, and Lee lets out a really loud yell. He tells Marcus, "We're all right, I promise." Now Marcus lets out a loud scream. Evelyn hangs up clothes, and she heads back inside the house. Marcus asks why didn't Lee let Reagan join. He asks if he blames her for what happened. We see Reagan on the bridge where Bo was killed. Lee says no, he doesn't blame her, as Marcus says, well, she blames herself. Reagan has set up a memorial for Bo, and we see Evelyn in Bo's room crying. Lee says it was no one's fault. Marcus asks if Lee still loves her. Reagan cuts the noise wire and places the rocket by the cross. "You should tell her you love her." The two guys walk home and they come across an old abandoned house overtaken by plants. They keep walking and Marcus walks into Lee, who has stopped, seeing an old man and his dead wife on the ground, who has been killed by a monster. Lee tells him to be quiet, but the old man lets out a loud scream. Lee grabs Marcus and takes off running full speed, and they hide behind a tree. The old man is killed by the monster as Lee holds Marcus' mouth shut. Evelyn's water suddenly breaks, and she begins to head down the stairs and sits on the bottom step, taking deep breaths. She walks down the basement steps and steps on the nail, dropping a picture frame. She removes her foot off the nail and walks downstairs and flips a switch to give off a warning of red lights. She looks up the steps and sees a monster in their home. She hears loud crashing noises and she grabs a wind-up timer. All right, Brian, that's the next set of scenes I got. What'd you think?
No, just another great set of scenes. I mean, you see the fractured and look, and I'm sure nearly impossible relationship between Lee and Reagan, but also giving very important plot points that again don't pay off until the ending. And we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but this is a lot like Signs to me, where the monster aspect of the movie isn't the main focus. Kind of Mike said earlier, but although it's much more of a focus, I think, than Signs. But the main focus is this family. The characters. And their relationship with each other. It's very well written, and I'll get more into it during my fun facts. But writing credits go to Brian Woods as Scott Beck and John Krasinski, which I believe he did some rewrites and additions to Beck and Woods' original script. But yeah, this set of scenes has a lot of that character development, a lot of character moments in it. Probably, I would say the most in the whole movie. We get our first line of dialogue. Well, that's not true. First line of voiced dialogue here. At around the 38-minute mark. But again, it's not just some random throwaway shit. Like I said earlier, it's giving you plot points and showing you that they can talk. If there's a bigger sound nearby, it pays off later. Obviously, I think this 1 hour and 30-minute runtime is used very well. It's very tight script, where we've had some movies that go an hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes, but they feel like 4 hours have gone by. To me, this is not the case with this one. The only really nitpick I have with this set of scenes is Reagan cutting the cords to the sound for the rocket ship. How could she tell it wasn't making any sounds anymore? Anyway, just minor nitpick I had, a question. With all the character development and just as you think it could possibly be getting just a little bit boring, maybe. We call an exhibit to pimp our fucking movie because you want action scenes on top of action scenes, baby. Here you go, motherfuckers. we get the old man in the woods, then Evelyn's water breaking at the same exact time. Like that wasn't enough. All in broad daylight too, which eventually they'll ramp that tension up even more with the finale scene, which is smart because you're not giving us the same thing. It's all monsters attacking, but each time it's something a little bit different, a little bit different situation, something added like nighttime or like an enclosed space or this or that. It's never the same tension. So I really liked how they did that. There's only a few more years. People will probably even get that Pimp My Ride reference. So hope everybody gets it at least now.
Yo, dog. Oh, sorry.
By the way, shout out to boss bitch Evelyn for delivering her own damn baby after stepping on a fucking nail and then prying it off herself. Which shit, wow, that hurt me watching it. And anyway, surviving another possible attack with contractions and a hole in her foot, fucking boss. And I think this goes into the next set of scenes too, so I'll kind of cut it off right there. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, to me, this is a set of scenes that's just kind of doing a really good job keeping the narrative going into the next set of scenes, which is where the movie really kicks up. But we started at the end of this one. The scenes between father and daughter, heartbreaking because you can almost understand both sides. He sees it as trying to help. I think she's kind of sick of this whole, is this going to work? Is this not going to work thing with her earpiece? So totally understand both sides of it. On the other hand, and you get the yin and the yang here, the mother-son stuff is so sweet. You can tell he's kind of a sensitive kid. He's, a little bit scared after what happened to his brother to even live in this world. And so I think she does a good job trying to comfort him. And I really like that. This scene where he tells Reagan that she can't go straight out of Tim McGraw's Don't Take the Girl. Dustin, I know you know that one, buddy.
What is it?
Okay. All right. Anyway, doctor said the baby's fine. But I love, again, I said it again here, but I love it where you're almost in her shoes when she's trying to hear. You get the snapping, the real slow-mo snapping, and I like the added effect that we can't hear it either. We are Reagan in that moment. And I think, again, really just smart, really good filmmaking. Running away in times like these, I guess you learn to live again. Foo Fighters, baby. Someone will get that reference. Look, I'm not sure where they live, but it's beautiful. Wherever they live, this farm, where they're at, and all the streams and creeks and stuff, it's beautiful. The son here is a little too scared for me, and I know I just talked about how sweet it was, but at some point, man, you gotta know what's at stake, man. We gotta go get these fish. We gotta teach you how to get these fish so that someday you know what you're doing. So that's kind of how that goes. Man, this nail. The minute I saw it come out of the stairs, I said, "Oh God, somebody is stepping on this nail." I wasn't wrong. That scene. I'll save it for a second. I love this waterfall scene. I think the sound, whoever did the sound design, fantastic job here. And I said it in my open, but it's so strange when you finally get to hear people speak. It's so impactful. It's so powerful. And you almost forget what voices sound like. So when they talk, it's again, it's almost odd, but it's odd in a good way for sure. I like the Leah Marcus talk. I think it kind of gives us a viewpoint from Reagan, even though she hasn't spoken. We know what she's thinking, and now her dad does too.
Good point.
And I think that adds something because as men, idiot, caveman brain men like us don't always pick up on cues like that. And for someone to tell him, hey, you should tell her you love her, is very impactful and very important and comes into major play in a scene that just rips your freaking heart out. God almighty. But hey, I'm going to say everyone in this family's got Jiffy Store feet. I know what that looks like. They all walking around here barefoot, and I've been noticing. Don't think I haven't. Everybody in this family got Jiffy Store feet. I know because I have Jiffy Store feet. I love the back and forth with the waterfall and the happiness that brings, and you get the crying from Evelyn and Emily Blunt. I want to say this. this is where the acting from Emily Blunt really starts to pick up, man. And it really happens in the next set of scenes, so I'll save it, but I have to give her flowers here. Man, the pop old man is kind of a really good jump scare. Like, I think it's played really well. But fuck this old guy, man. Fuck this old guy. Now, I know his wife probably just died. Now, I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it was the creature. I don't know. But you didn't have to yell like that with these two innocent people just chilling right here, man. I hate this old guy.
You mean those trespassers that were on his property?
Hey, I don't care. Man, his property, man, this is day 980, whatever it is, of being lawless. I don't want to hear that shit. Fuck this old guy. And that's why, spoiler alert, he's my favorite kill. I'm glad he dies and gets snatched. I said it. He's old anyway. It'll be all right. A really unfortunate time for the water to break. Just saying. When you have an alien monster out for your husband and son, and now your water decides to break, man, that's tough. Tough times. Then she steps on the nail. She's a beast. Brian mentioned it. Just a freaking beast to not only have your water breaking as you're trying to deliver this baby, but then you step on a nail full force without even thinking about it. It is just, oh, God, it gives me the shivers every time. I'm going to cut it off right there, but I did want to say this is where the movie really kicks up in a good way. I think all the slow tension is about to become really rapid.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You both said some nice things about these kids. So I'm going to go the opposite direction.
You hate kids. That's great. Hey, that's at DM Frank on Twitter. At DM Frank on Twitter.
Fuck them kids. Little girl's got a badass attitude. That girl's got a badass attitude, disobeying her dad. He's trying to help her. He's trying to put these, devices in her ear so she can maybe try to hear, and telling him stop. That scene is playing on my screen right now. It's funny. I guess there's a trailer playing on IMDb, and literally as I said stop, she does the hand motion for stop. That was crazy. But it's just this hateful, man. Like, honor thy father and thy mother. That's in the Bible. And then so they got a little girl with a bad attitude, and a little boy's a straight up pussy. This is a tough scene. My thoughts and prayers go out to what's their names? Lee and Evelyn. I had to look it up again because we don't get their fucking names in the entire movie. But man, this is some tough situation, tough cards they were dealt, parent wise or kid wise. But when Evelyn goes walking up the stairs and you see the nail get pried up, it wasn't hard to guess that was foreshadowing, especially when the camera panned back down to it. I wish I hadn't done that, honestly. Like, show the bag get stuck on it. That's fine. And then show the nail get pried up, but the camera stays behind and then goes back down to it. Wish I hadn't done that. I don't know, because we all knew it was coming anyway. Then here, we get the first line of voice dialogue about 30 minutes in. I really like the scene, like you said, at the waterfall. Little kid was scared shitless, and dad's just trying to tell him, look, you're safe, you're fine. Quit being a little bitch, dude. But then it's very emotional when Lee and Marcus are talking about blame. Do you blame her? No, I don't. It's no one's fault. And then the camera, it goes back to Evelyn in the nursery, and she's thinking about little Bo. And then the camera goes to Reagan, and she's putting the rocket on the cross there. Like, I really like the way that was shot. Great directorial choices there. And then as they're trying to make their trek home, they're walking. Kid's got his head down, just walking, following his dad. But then out of focus, you see the old man's head pop up. That was an awesome shot, because I wouldn't necessarily call that a jump scare, but it was a very like, oh shit moment. And then the tension is just insane as we see his dead wife in the ground there, and Lee's really like, please, man, don't do it. Just stay quiet. So that was a very tense moment. I really like that. Now, here's the thing. Yes, I'm going to give her props for being a badass and taking that nail to the foot like she did. But what are the odds of that, man? Like, that's I don't know. It's just the nail happened to rip up right in the middle of the stairway, and then she just happened to take the exact same path back down the stairs. I guess it's just, I don't know. little too coincidental for me, I guess. But regardless of the probability of that happening, it was a very tense scene with the alien or the monster, or whatever you want to call it, in the house. And I thought that she acted her ass off. Very strong set of scenes again. And also, but I will say that this set of scenes is where I was like, man, this is kind of a hard movie to take notes on because a lot's happening, I guess, but not a lot's happening. There's no dialogue, and I'm so sucked into the movie that it's like, oh yeah, shit, I'm supposed to be taking notes. So I guess that's a sign of it being effective.
Oh yeah. Lee and Marcus see the red lights and know Evelyn is in trouble. They take off running to help her. Evelyn hides as she hears the creature coming down the steps. She watches it as we see a close-up on the monster's ear. When the timer goes off, Evelyn makes a run, but changes direction as she sees another monster. Lee gives Marcus a flashlight and tells him, "Rocket." Marcus cries, but Lee says, "I need you to make a sound louder. Your mother needs you. You can." He hugs his son and Marcus takes off running. Evelyn sits in a bathtub who is in agony from this childbirth. Blood fills the tub as she sits as quietly as possible. The monster is right outside the bathroom entrance as we see Marcus light the fireworks. Lee has a shotgun in hand. Evelyn lets out a scream of agony as the fireworks explode in the sky. Reagan sits up when she sees the explosion and runs towards home. Lee is in the house with the gun and heads upstairs cautiously. He goes into the bathroom and Evelyn isn't in the tub, only a pool of blood. He begins to cry, but a bloody hand hits the shower glass. He opens the glass door and we see Evelyn holding their newborn child. Marcus is walking in the cornfield and hears rustling around him. He turns around and begins running and runs into the corn. He runs full speed until he runs into a tractor tire, knocking himself out. Lee carries Evelyn and the crying baby fast as he can into the bunker and places the mattress over them to block the sound. They put the oxygen mask on the baby as they place him into the soundproof crib. Reagan is in the cornfield now, who sees a light protruding the crop. A monster creeps behind her, ready to attack, but the frequencies from the cochlear implant bothers the creature so much it runs away in pain. Evelyn wakes up and Lee says she's safe and to get rest. She asks where are they. "I'll find them," he tells her. She says she was with me, but I had laundry, and he tells her he had rockets. He knows to wait for you. She tells Lee their baby is a boy. Evelyn says she could feel the weight in her arms, so small but heavy. "My hands were free. I was carrying the bag, but my hands were free. Who are we if we can't protect them?" as she cries, reminiscing on Bo's death. "Promise me you will protect them." Reagan walks towards the light in the field and finds a flashlight, and Marcus grabs her hand and they hug. Lee exits the bunker to find his children. We see water pouring into the building from a broken pipe. Marcus and Reagan are on top of the silo with a fire lit, but it goes out as they run out of lighter fluid. Lee watches the monitors, and Marcus tells Reagan, "Don't worry, he'll come for us," as she shakes her head and he hugs Reagan. Evelyn wakes up when she realizes all the water pouring into their bunker. Her worst nightmare as she sees a monster down in the room with her. She gets into the water and so does the monster. We hear the baby crying softly and Evelyn grabs him and the monster emerges right in front of her. She backs away slowly and behind the falling water. Lee is walking the cornfield and finds Marcus' backpack by the tractor. The monster is on the other side of the falling water. Reagan says we can't stay here as he tells her he'll come for us. Reagan says he'll come for you. Marcus now falls through the silo hatch and the monster sprints toward the sound. Reagan looks down and sees him sinking into the corn. The door falls, almost hitting him. Lee watches the monster run past him. Reagan jumps into the crop and pushes the door closer to him so he'll stop sinking, but Reagan is now submerged in the kernels. Marcus grabs her hand and pulls her back up. Lee is running full speed to the silo. Marcus motions to be quiet as he hears noise around them. The other door sways and the monster lands beside her. They use the door to fend off the monster's sharp claws. Her implant's frequency is so intense the monster runs away, shrieking in pain. They sit up and see a hole in the side of the silo. And the next set of scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so that whole tension that was, built up at the end of the last set of scenes is super high still at the beginning of this set of scenes. And I started to say the last set, but wow, just great acting from Blunt here. Like just amazing during this whole thing. I mean, she apparently did that whole bathtub scene in one take too. Krasinski said as soon as he said cut, Blunt just totally broke character and asked the crew, "What does everyone have for lunch?" I mean, after such an emotional performance, it's just amazing to me. Hell, just the performance Krasinski gives using just facial expressions when he thinks his wife is dead. That's another reason why he's so perfect for this. I mean, if you're a fan of The Office, you've seen that skill set of his throughout that entire series. Also, another cool detail that someone else did the math for why there are fireworks on the field. Day 473 of the invasion is actually October 3rd. This means that the invasion started on June 17th, about 2 weeks before July 4th. So that explains why the Abbott family has fireworks in their fields. Just a cool little detail that, again, I can't take credit for because somebody else did the math on that one. The cornfield scene, it had a lot of vibes from a few different movies. It's kind of almost a trope with that. Signs, Children of the Corn, Sinister 2, Jeepers Creepers 3. I mean, there are a ton, but I love it every time. I mean, here as well. Plus, you have Lee trying to get the crying baby put up at the same time as well as Reagan, walking up on the cornfield and can't hear the monster behind her at all. That it's kind of gives you that realization that her earpiece could have a bearing on the future before the characters know it. So you're just on sensory overload almost after all that shit. And for a movie with 25 lines of voice dialogue, I think that is just it's brilliant. I can't say that enough. Now that baby would have been screaming from the get-go. Like, let's just go ahead and say that. And how did Lee not hear the water running behind him? That's ridiculous. And how can the monster hear Marcus fall through the silo like mile away, but can't hear the baby behind that, I guess, basically waterfall in the basement? I don't know. Little nitpicks, but like Mike said, I feel the same way. They're little enough that I'll forgive them for sure. And lastly, I talked about there being only a few lines of dialogue. Just that line here with Evelyn saying, "Who are we if you can't protect our children?" That's just such a powerful line. I mean, it's just in the world we're living in today. It's such a powerful line. I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So this is a set of scenes. Great acting by Emily Blunt. I mean, I said it in the last set, but just got to give her flowers here, man. The way that she shows pain and fear at the same time. Golly, she's great. Beautiful shot of the red lights. I think the cinematography is just an A+. It's artistically done well. The tension with this monster coming down the stairs, I love. She has a good plan here with the timer, but she's got to be speedy, and I'm not really sure that that she's going to be quick enough. But we've seen her be a badass, so that's fine. The soundtrack of this movie, when it comes to this set of scenes, is great. The song you get when the sun is running is perfect. I love the fireworks as a plan to kind of draw the monster away. The acting by Blunt, again, as she's in the tub, it's just, God, I love it, man. I think I think her in this scene, in this set of scenes, is Oscar worthy to me. That bloody handprint would have scared the shit out of me if I was Lee, especially when I'm like, oh man, I don't know where she is. And all of a sudden there's a bloody handprint on the shower door. That's something. When Marcus is running through this cornfield, he's making too much damn noise, man. Like, you're giving yourself away that quick. Again, this is the one set of scenes that makes me go, why are we having a baby? And then you have to put a baby in a box. I mean, kind of discovering what this earpiece ends up being is something I called. When the monster is creeping up behind Reagan, and she kind of, I don't know if then that moment she figures it out, but we do as a device to kind of maybe can take down this whole thing. And I think I love that idea. I think it's unique and a creative way to kind of get rid of the monster. I know that's had some complaints, but I love the soundproof room idea. All the paper mache artistic time that they were doing in the beginning of the movie now makes sense. Another thing where you hear people speak, very odd. Good for them. They ended up with a boy after all. If you're going to bring a baby in this world, then good for them, I guess. This scene is fantastic. This scene between Emily Blunt and John Krasinski is wonderful. It's heavy. It almost makes me forgive them for bringing a child into this, because you can see the pain that the losing one caused. And I just think both of them, Oscar worthy in my opinion, got robbed for not, horror never gets its flowers. So I'm not shocked by that at all. They're really lucky these things can't see shit. If they could, they would have been dead a long freaking time ago. They're right there in front of them. the room flooding was not something I had on my A Quiet Place bingo card when I first watched this movie, and that's just another thing to add to it. Great visuals that came out of it, though. The red light against the water, I think visually is stunning. Uh, I love the chemistry between the siblings here. Every time that baby cries or makes a noise, I think of Step Brothers. Better shut that baby up, or it's the other guys. I don't remember which one it is, but better shut that baby up. That's what I always think of. The monster.
That's the Hangover.
Oh, it's one of the. Yeah, it is. Oh, it is the Hangover.
Hangover.
Hey, it's the same guy.
It is the same guy. Shut that baby up. Shut that baby up.
Shut that baby up. You're right. It is the man. God, that's one of my favorites. That makes me mad at myself. The monster and Evelyn being face to face, fantastic. I think that comes across so well. Man, that's a lot of corn in that thing, and I know there's a behind the scenes thing about how they use local corn farmers and stuff, but Jesus Christ, that's a lot of corn in that thing. The monster going right past Lee in the cornfield, I think, really cool visual, especially because, like I said, if these things could see, he would have been screwed, man. Now, I don't think I'd want to die by drowning in corn. So I totally get the panic that Marcus has here. But again, this is probably the moment where maybe, like, I don't know the moment when Reagan, and I know that she's like has an epiphany with her earpiece in the last set of scenes, but I think maybe this is the moment she realizes this is a way to get rid of this thing, is to screw with her earpiece, because it works really well. So I love that they make these monsters just pure evil. The way they snatch and kill people real easy, I think, gives me someone to root for and someone to hate. It's very black and white in that way. So I really like the set of scenes, and not as much as I like this last set of scenes, but I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, the first thing I put in my notes for this set of scenes, Brian already answered. I put, how the fuck do they have electricity? But never mind. So on to the next. Brilliant plan to have the fireworks set up as a bailout in case needed. I thought that was awesome. We need a bigger sound or a bigger noise, whatever he said. That was awesome. It's very tense as Marcus is running through the corn, and then immediately hilarious when he ran into the tractor. I laughed my ass off when he ran into the tractor tire. Then we get to the basement, and she's down there in the floodwaters. First of all, how the hell did Lee just leave without noticing all that water? Like he walked out and the camera just pans and you can hear the water. So that was annoying. But it's freaky as hell finding out that these things can swim, like the way it just goes under the water off the stairs. That was a great visual. But one of my favorite shots in the entire movie is right here when Evelyn is picking the baby up out of the box, and as she's picking it up, the monster comes out of the water like at the same pace. That was an awesome visual there. Man, these kids, I don't mean to keep harping on them because they are youths, but they just make it really hard to root for them. Dumbass fell in the silo, and then they both almost drown in corn because they can't figure out the Titanic door puzzle. Fuck out of here. Oh my God. I hate these kids. Anyway, I think we get a great usage of a jump scare though in this scene when the monster drops down into the corn right behind him. Like this movie does a really good job of building tension when you consider there's only 4 deaths in the entire movie. It's a very tense movie. That's also hard to accomplish, I feel like. So just a great job all around. Overall, though, this is a good set of scenes that's setting us up for one hell of an ending.
Speaking of the ending, here we go. Another really powerful scene. Evelyn is back in the basement watching the monitors as Lee makes it to the children. He hugs them both tightly and asks if they're okay. He hears a monster approaching, motioning to be quiet. He says head towards the truck. Marcus hides inside and Reagan underneath. Lee grabs an axe and the monster above him swipes him with his claw. Marcus screams out "Dad" as Reagan enters the truck with him, and her implant frequency goes off again. The creature now attacks the truck as Lee grabs the axe, grabbing his wound on his side. He drops the axe on the ground. He tells Reagan, "I love you. I have always loved you." She tears up and he lets out a scream and the monster attacks him. Marcus lets go of the brake and the truck rolls down the hill. Evelyn walks outside with a shotgun and hugs her children in tears. She hears the monsters and they run inside the house and down the stairs, avoiding the nail this time. She hides Marcus behind the hot water heater, and Reagan walks down the steps slowly. She sees all the hard work and research Lee has done trying to make her an implant that works. Evelyn grabs the newborn baby and lets Marcus hold him. Reagan cries now as she sees all the different implants he's created. She shows Evelyn all the implants, and they both cry together. The lamp flickers as they hear the monster walking down the steps. Evelyn points the shotgun at it, trembling. The noise of the static on the TV causes the monster to hit them, breaking them. Reagan looks at the notes on the board and sees what's its weakness. She turns on her implant, and the noise causes the monster to tremble and shake. Reagan puts the implant by the mic, causing the monster to fall over in agony. Evelyn turns around in amazement, but the monster charges them. She shoots it with a shotgun in the head, killing it. Evelyn sees more monsters running to the house on the monitors, and she and Reagan make eye contact. She cranks up the mic, and Evelyn reloads the shotgun as the film ends. All right, Brian, what do you think of the ending?
Man, it's great. It's powerful. I mean, just this moment with Lee saving them and him telling Reagan, I have always loved you, which apparently Melissa Simmons is the one who changed the original line from just "I love you" to "I've always loved you" as well. And Krasinski said it made him cry when he delivered the line. But man, just what a beautiful moment, and just it's ridiculously tremendous shot through the house as the kids get home in that truck, which I'm not sure how that didn't make a whole lot of noise either. I know that they're just not using the engine and rolling down the street, but I mean, there's a reason why they're anyway. To me, I had to suspend disbelief just a little bit there on that one. But man, that moment didn't have really any time to breathe at all. I mean, it's almost like they should have given it a second there to let that loss of Lee kind of sink in a little bit. Even the moment between mother and daughter, like right after that, it's just I just needed a few more seconds. I feel like it kind of jumped right into it. But either way, I love the ending. And like I said earlier, I love how the perceived weakness of her being deaf and having to use the earpiece actually turns out to be the saving grace and the strength that, to save her family and not a weakness. And yeah, just Blunt's acting, just unmatched during this entire ending too. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a sigh of relief when the kids and dad hug each other, but you just know it's going to hang over there. It's not going to last very long. They were about to jump right back into something that could be bad. Imagine having to watch all of this unfold on monitors. You've got your husband and both your kids out there knowing that all these these aliens are around, and you can't do really anything about it. That has to be really, really tough, and I think Blunt gets that across really well. There's another experience here where you're in the shoes of Reagan in the car, and we can't hear the alien or monster coming, but they do. They see it, and we hear it once it hits the car, and I think that makes it very impactful. I thought that was well shot and well made. This is just a heartbreaking scene, man, and I truly mean that. The "I love you" and "always love you." I'm not gonna lie, real tears pretty much every time I've watched this movie. When it comes to that scene, I mean, that is so powerful and so just tough to watch. And he realizes he's not strong enough. He doesn't have the right tools to defeat this thing and save his kids. So he does the only thing he can do, and that's sacrifice his own life. And that is, man, it's tough every single time. Just gut wrenching when it happens. Reagan's realization about her dad, always, working on her hearing aid and learning everything that he can about the ear. When she cries, you feel it, man. And again, almost every time I've watched this movie, that gets some real tears out of me too. This is the scene where you finally get to really get a good look at the monster in light, and it's very Demogorgon-like. It's almost like the same monster. I mean, not exactly, because the Demogorgon opens up like a flower, like a Venus flytrap almost. But it's pretty, it's pretty similar to its look and aesthetic for sure. But it's an ugly ass monster, man. That's an ugly ass thing. No wonder that thing wants to kill people. He's angry all the time. The first time I saw this movie, I wasn't sure that a gunshot would take care of this thing because we hadn't seen it really, and I guess it was him being distorted with the sound, through the microphone and earpiece that that maybe helped weaken it, and then the gunshot worked. I'm not sure, but obviously that was going to trigger a bunch of noise, and so here they all come. That is a terrifying scene and a terrifying cliffhanger to end on when they're all running and you see them. But we trust these two now as two kind of badasses on their own, the two women in the family to kind of take control and keep fighting. So I like the cliffhanger. I love the ending. I wish there wasn't a movie after this, because I think this is just a good way to kind of end it up right here. But I really enjoy the ending. Well, enjoy's a touchy word, because there's some just freaking, watery eye scenes in this ending here, but I really think it's well done.
So I have an unpopular opinion, I guess. I like the ending set of scenes as a whole. I mean, it's very powerful here. We get to see a father sacrificing himself to save his kids. A chilling moment when he signs, "I love you, I've always loved you," to his daughter. Like you said, that was awesome, knowing that Millicent Simmons is the one that suggested that change. That's crazy. This is a brutal moment. But I think the movie should have ended right there. Because going back to the basement
That's fair.
really cheapened it to me. Because number one, like, yes, we get to see, more between now single mother and children. Big brother gets to hold his new little brother for the first time. Daughter is finding the work that her father put in to try and help her, all this research he was doing, and she's seeing the basement for the first time and all this. All that's good stuff. But the realization that a shotgun will kill it sucks. Because why haven't the military taken them all out yet? Especially in the United States, we've got the biggest defense budget in the entire world. You're telling me that they couldn't just roll through every state, every city with a truck blasting loud ass music to draw them out and just mow them down with machine guns? That it doesn't make sense how we're day 400 and something, and it seems like all of humanity's gone. It's a ghost town everywhere, because as many guns as there are in America, these things shouldn't be an issue. They should be eradicated 400 days in. So that's my biggest gripe with the entire movie. And honestly, that realization took my score down a full, I don't know, probably point and a half. Because if like, it's just like, what the hell, man? Why are these things still wreaking havoc if a shotgun blast to the face will kill it? So, but overall, though, incredible acting by John Krasinski and Emily Blunt and the kids, in a still a very solid movie.
All right, let's jump into social media comments and questions. We got quite a bit. We're going to do Instagram first. Chris_2020 asked, "Were you guys caught off or shocked by the intense scene right before the title card opened? My theater went nuts." It was a shock. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater.
Yeah, I didn't see it in theater either. But I mean, obviously, I just told you I just watched it a few weeks ago. But no, it's very tense, and that's what I mentioned. It does a good job setting a tone early on.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting the youngest kid to get snatched like that. So it sure did shock the hell out of me.
Absolutely. Jay Hambrick 88 commented, "Finally, I have a reason to watch this movie. It's been sitting on my shelf since it came out, and I've just been putting it off." Yeah, man, watch it. I think we'll all agree we all like it. Some more than others, but we're all going to be positive on it at the end. Mark_Hef. I always love reading his comments. Big fan of the show. Great pick. John Krasinski was brilliant. The kid at the start hits right in the feels. The monsters aren't really the star of this monster movie, more their presence and threat. Oh, and Emily Blunt. Sweet Lord, call me sometime.
Sweet Lord.
Hey, attaboy.
He's taking your old tagline, Mike.
That's all right. He can have it. I'm going to pull it out of retirement someday. It's coming.
All right, let's jump over to Facebook. Clayton J commented, "Man, I have some catching up to do on some episodes, but I'm back to my regular schedule, so I have time for podcasts again, and I'm happy to start with this one." Hell yeah, brother. Big fan of the show, Jared Summers. "A child gets snatched up before his family's eyes. Not exactly Parents of the Year award material, allowing him to walk behind everyone in the first place. Yet Emily Blunt stepping on that nail is still the hardest thing to watch in this movie.
Yes.
Also, as a huge fan of both The Office and Stranger Things, I love that the Duffer Brothers let Krasinski use the Demogorgon for the movie. And then he put the the emoji with the little sweat bead. Great film from start to finish. Movie gets an 8 of 10 from me. All right, I think that's pretty fair rating.
Absolutely.
Slightly higher than IMDb. Michelle Mirza commented, hearing Nico scene by scene on a movie with barely any dialogue is going to be interesting. This movie actually really wasn't that hard for me to take like scene by scene on. Found footage, whew, those are the hard ones.
Yep.
Kevin Potoff. All right, he said, best part is a kid with a loud toy. He had it coming.
Damn.
Exactly. Well, I don't know if he had it coming. The parents had it coming.
Yeah. And the last comment on Facebook is from Missy Hutchison Wall. I like this movie, but I did not love it. I can't really put my finger on why. I feel you. I'm kind of the same way, honestly. And now we're going to end it off on Twitter. Kevin Scanlon, teammate of ours, big fan of this one. Acting was great across the board. With minimal talking throughout, they needed to rely on body language and facial expressions to get the tone across. I also enjoyed how sound was incorporated throughout the film. Great pick, gents. Sean Irwin commented, damn near perfect movie. My only question is the ending. Did it end at the right time, or did you want to see them take out the others? Dustin had a pretty good thought line of thinking. But I'll just say real quick, I haven't seen the sequel, so I can't really comment if they do anything with these other two running at the house. But I'm fine with where it ended.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I kind of agree with Dustin, I guess, but again, I wish there wasn't a sequel, so I really do like the ending. I think it wraps it up nice.
That's really funny, Dustin. I promise you, as soon as that happened, and I even when I wrote in my notes that I wish that moment had, they let it breathe a little bit. I thought, man, this would actually be a pretty good ending point.
Absolutely.
And then, then it kind of gave me some more, and I thought, well, they put too much in this ending. I don't feel like you could have. You needed some of this to kind of come earlier, I guess, if that's where you're going to end it. But let me tell you that I agree with you some. I mean, like it wouldn't hurt my feelings if that's where it ended.
Yeah.
My only problem with that would be is just, I mean, the kids are right there. I mean, I would like to see what happened to them. But, I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible spot to end either. Just a few more. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Dustin.
I guess let me revise that then. I don't mean like just in literally right there. Maybe even show them making it safely back to the house. But I don't need to see what goes on once they get there. Like that would have been sufficient.
Like when they hug mom, just cut the end right there?
Yeah,
okay,
let us know that the kids made it back safely. But I don't need to know the rest. I especially don't need to know that a fucking shotgun is good enough. God.
All right, just a few more comments and questions. Matt Sears.
To be fair, Dustin, with the shotgun thing, I think the point was that her earpiece made it open up and expose the weakness part. So so I mean, it wasn't just that people didn't shoot them with shotguns. That's the point that's what I got from it. Anyway.
I mean,
that's what Dead Meat said too. Like it exposes itself, opening up the fleshy part to be shot. Because I guess that's all armor.
So did Pee Wee Herman in a movie theater one time, but it's just not really, that's not good enough for
That
me.
is not the same thing.
You get it.
I mean, we all get it.
That was good. He exposed himself.
All right. Let's jump back to Twitter. Matt Sears commented, great film. How quickly the monster murks that kid near the start made me jump out of my seat the first time I watched it. Fun fact, JK sought a deaf actress for the daughter, and she ended up suggesting, I think we've all touched on this, suggesting a change to his last line of the movie, which I thought was perfect. His last line was supposed to be, I love you. See, she suggested what ended up in the movie, I love you, I've always loved you, which, given her grief throughout the film, seemed like a perfect edit on her part. I agree. That's a great way to end it. And the last one is from The Cool, and he has 3 questions, and they're all really good questions. Absolutely great movie, especially the sequel. Number 1, did the son being so timid and scared bother you all as much as it did me? Yes, somewhat. I'll say somewhat bothered me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with it. Only in certain scenes, though.
Pussy.
It did not bother me because I can totally I can see a kid that age acting like that 100% because my kid would have been like that too.
I mean, yeah, he's still a little kid at the end of the day, even if it is a dire situation.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, hell, 9 years old and got lost in Walmart and cried. So good Lord.
Absolutely. Me too.
All right. Question number 2. At the end, there were 2 monsters coming to the house. Do y'all think it was realistic a shotgun is quick enough to take 2 out? I think they explained it well to me with the frequency. Like it slows them up, opens up the armor. I can buy it, honestly.
I mean, the frequency by itself took one down. So if she was about to crank that up and blast it everywhere, I think it was believable enough for me.
Yeah, I agree, Brian.
Yep, I agree.
And his last question is, if there is a third installment, what direction should the franchise go? I'm really interested in the environment of the origin planet of the monsters looks. I have not seen the second one, so I can't comment, but Brian said that he has a good answer for this.
I personally don't want to know about the origins of the alien species. To me,
neither do I.
Takes away stuff from it. We've had that discussion 50,000 times. To me, what you could do is just follow a different family, during this entire thing. I mean, you could have good character development, get connected to another family. And if you want to tie it in together, let's have Reagan show up at the end and save this family because she knows the secret. So that could be like a little surprise, oh, hey, shit, there's Reagan from the first 2. I don't know. Just
I don't want it. Because
I don't either.
If you do that, then yeah, I get it. Like you can keep it going, and these are good movies. But what new can you do, really? The only thing that I can see,
the trope is going to be there. I mean, you're going to get bored with it for sure. You're right.
So the only thing I can see is that maybe they're trekking and they find that there are some government officials still alive, and they get this secret into the hands of them that, hey, the frequency does it. It's their weakness. And then they take back the world. But we don't need a movie for that. Like, just let the imagination. I don't know.
That's the reason I don't like the sequel. I just think there's only so much you can do. I don't not like the sequel. I just don't like it as much because I think there's only just so much that you can do with this concept. That's what I have in my my final summary is that I think it's a great idea for a one-off movie.
The one thing that I do like about the sequel, Earmuffs, Nico, is that it does give us the the flashbacks and like letting us know beforehand. Like it just but I agree that's really unnecessary. We know they lived a normal life beforehand. We don't necessarily need to know what they were doing the moment that shit went down. But it was a nice touch, I guess.
Yeah, and I was going to say this about the second one. Whenever we finally get to it, I like it, but it's because I like the first one so much, and it's almost like you could take 30 minutes of that and do that whole second movie and just add it to this one, and that would have been fine because it's almost just like an extension of this, to be honest with you. Sure. We don't need a third one. We're going to run into paranormal activity problems where it's just like kind of becomes formulaic, a trope, and you're just like, okay, because like you said, there's only so much you can do with it.
And as far as the getting to know the origin of it, there was apparently newspapers hanging up in this movie that says a meteor strikes in wherever, and that was kind of their explanation of the origin. So that's where they came from. They're aliens, I guess, but that's good enough for me.
Yep, I agree.
All right, guys, let's jump into fun facts. Brian, Dustin, y'all want to go ahead? I don't have any for tonight.
I only have one, so let me go, Dustin. Yep. Let me get this over with because it's long. I want to bring this. God damn it!
I was gonna say that's what she said.
Hey, I'm leaving that in because it's an Office reference, and John Krasinski. I'm leaving it in.
Exactly.
All right.
That's also what she said.
In an interview with the website /Film, screenwriters Scott Beck and Brian Woods revealed that Paramount Pictures originally intended to incorporate this A Quiet Place movie into the studio's Cloverfield film franchise.
Thank God they did.
There we go. As Beck said in an interview, I guess it crossed our minds. We hadn't spoken to our representatives about the possibility. It was weird timing because we were writing the script 10 Cloverfield Lane, and we were writing that at the same time the script 10 Cloverfield Lane was at Paramount. We were actually talking to executive there about this film, and it felt from pitch form that there might actually be a crossover. But John Krasinski ultimately, kind of relieved and grateful for Paramount to finally decide to allow them to make the film as a wholly original, stepped in and kind of got it pushed to do a standalone film. So anyway, I'm glad that it's not part of the Cloverfield franchise. To me, the first and second one are really good. They didn't really have to do the third one. So can't wait to make you guys watch the second one. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sick that day.
Dicks.
John Krasinski actually played the creature in a motion capture suit for a few scenes. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Actress Millicent Simmons has been deaf since infancy due to a medication overdose. Didn't know that. That's pretty cool. The filmmakers purchased 20 tons of corn and hired local farmers to grow it. So there you go, Mike. There's your corn.
There it
There's
is.
your corn hub stat of the day.
Beer makes corn, corn makes whiskey. I know you know the words. Rain makes corn. One of those.
I don't get the reference. It was initially intended to leave the American Sign Language unsubtitled. I think we touched on that one. Thank God they didn't do that though, because I was still captivated by the movie with no audible spoken word, but at least I got to read something. So if it was unsubtitled, I would have went crazy. Film was shot in 36 days. It's pretty impressive. Krasinski said he wrote the script with Emily Blunt, his wife, in mind for the role, but was hesitant to ask her, fearing she might either A, turn it down, or B, only accept it for him. So glad it worked out. And that's the only one I have, because I think, Brian, you mentioned that Amy Adams and Anne Hathaway were also briefly considered. So, yep.
I like both of them, but it just would not have worked as well. Okay, this movie's budget was a cool. Dang it, Nico, you got me with your side comment over here. I just saw a corn hub. Okay.
Dustin said that shit. That's hilarious.
I said it. I said, "There's your."
I know you did. I know, but I wasn't expecting it to be on the side of my screen.
Stat of the day.
Okay, so this movie was made for a cool $17 million. Against that budget, it made $341 million worldwide total box office. So when you ask why there's a sequel, there you go.
Yeah. I'm going to do one fun fact since it wasn't said, and I really like this one. Actor-director John Krasinski has said that the single greatest compliment he received regarding the film was in a tweet from Master of Horror himself, Stephen King. A Quiet Place is an extraordinary piece of work. Terrific acting, but the main thing is the silence and how it makes the camera's eye open wide in a way few movies manage. He tweeted that on April 6, 2018. And I only brought that up because James Wan himself said that the greatest compliment that a horror director can get is getting Stephen King's approval. So I wanted to read that one.
And by the way, I know I say this about music in some movies. The silence is a character in this movie, and it's a good one. For sure.
All righty, let's jump into our favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating. Who wants to kick us off this week?
I'll do it. I'll do it right now. I never go first. Let's do it. This movie. Let me get my favorite kill. My favorite kill is that old fuck who doesn't have a name that I'm aware of. Fuck that guy for trying to get everybody else killed. I guess that's a suicide thing, but sorry, man. That's a little fucked up. My least favorite is Lee. Just, Lee. Gut-wrenching, man. Just absolutely, ugh. So all in all, this movie's beautifully shot. It has A++ acting. I like the look of this monster. I think it works really well. Again, reminds me of Stranger Things and the Demogorgon. I think this is an interesting concept for a film that works so good as a one-off. I think that it's done with almost perfection here. My nitpick about them bringing a child in really did knock my points down some, because that's one leap in logic that I couldn't ignore. But outside of that, all the other ones I can kind of suspend my disbelief and just really buy into the story, which is a man and a woman trying to protect their kids to the best of their abilities. Whether they always do that well or not is up for debate. But again, I think there's so much tension throughout the entire film, and it's executed so well. All in all, I gave this movie an 8.75.
All right, I'll go next. Favorite kill, I wrote Bo, the son, at the very beginning. And I just wrote, not that I want a child to die, but I just thought it was a great way to kick the movie off. And how many times have we said on the show a director or they've had the balls to kill a kid? You know, I thought it was great that they went that far with it right off the opening scene. Least favorite was Lee. I just wrote Dad could have thrown the axe or something else to distract the monster. I mean, you're the dad. I mean, they need you around. Like, don't die like that. And I just wrote a little summary. Very conflicting movie for me. Incredible acting, heartfelt scenes that really pull at the heartstrings. This is a terrifying world to live in. beautifully shot, and such a great feel and mood. Just some things that frustrate me. Number one, the look of the monster. I know I'm probably just being super nitpicky here, but it does just feel like a ripoff of the Demogorgon to me. And when I saw it, I was just getting into like season 2 of Stranger Things. It bothered me, but it's not like a super bad deal breaker. And I agree, Mike. Also, just frustrating how they let their kids just roam so freely in this dangerous world. Kids are just running through this grocery store freely, bringing a new child into the world when any noise could bring them death. How Evelyn doesn't see this giant nail sticking up after this laundry bag gets stuck on this nail for a decent amount of time. You'd think you'd probably go down there and look and see what's causing that. And why is there a nail right there anyways? It's a stair. Like, why would you put a nail through that part of the board? That just didn't make sense to me. Or Lee hearing that water running, like it's dead quiet. You should be able to hear that. And like I just mentioned, my least favorite kill, my last nitpick is Lee's death. It was a beautiful moment, him telling his daughter he's always loved her. But man, throw that axe at the shed and do something, like create some other type of distraction. You're the man of the house and you're needed here in this family. But anywho, I don't hate this movie. I hope Brian doesn't think I do. I wrote it's still a very good movie, and I gave it a 7.75.
I'll go ahead and go since it's Brian's movie. So, as far as my kills go, my favorite kill was the old man because it was unexpected and it provided great tension. He was like, "Holy shit, he's gonna get the kids. He's gonna get Lee and Marcus killed here." So, very tense moment there. Least favorite kill was his wife because we didn't see it was off screen. But as far as the movie, I like it. I mean, it's a high rewatchability factor. I just looked it up. My text to you guys. July 4th is when I watched this movie for the first time, and watched it again. I guess about a week ago. Watched it again tonight, so I've seen it 3 times in a little over a month, and it's one of those that's going to go in my rotation. It's an easy watch with a lot of good acting in it. The atmosphere, the cinematography, like the score, everything about this movie is very well done. Other than the nitpicks I mentioned, I agree, Nico. Lee would have heard that water. I agree. She should have known that nail was there or seen what was catching her laundry bag and not stepped on it. Um, they shouldn't have let the little boy walk so far behind the group and get himself killed like that. Because if he was walking with his parents, they would have seen, hey, you have that rocket. We told you to put that down. What the hell's going on here? And I do think that the ending shouldn't have shown us the alien monster get killed because, again, 470 something days into this thing, and you're just now finding out that shotgun kills it. Even if the frequency has to make it vulnerable first, I still think the government might have tried that first. The military would have found that out first beforehand, before a, 12-year-old girl, however old she is. So I do have my issues with it. So that took my score down, like I said, about 1.5. I probably would have given this, closer to Mike's score, but I gave it a 7.75 as well.
Not bad at all. So before I go, I kind of wanted to just touch on the whole like having the baby thing one more time. I think, and like I said earlier, my easiest explanation for me is just basically that it was an accident. But playing devil's advocate, I think like a couple of other reasons, like Mike mentioned, that whole like lingering trauma of losing a kid. I mean, some families, some people, everybody handles trauma differently. Some people and some families may just have that, what's the word, make their family whole again, I guess is what I was trying to say. That may have been a reason. And also, I mean, just a simple end of the world type of explanation. I mean, I think it's, would I do it? No. Like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate, but I mean, you need maybe they're feeling responsible to repopulate the human race. I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing that out there too. To me, like I said, though, I think it just, an accident's the easiest explanation there, because doing it on purpose is very reckless. I completely agree. I do think that this is a good start to the monster movie month. I think that this movie is damn near perfect, from the acting, cinematography, to that sound design Mike mentioned, the jumping perspectives back and forth that it uses, especially on the bridge at the beginning. To me, just a few nitpicks like we talked about. It does knock it down some, but not much. I gave it a 9. Oh, my bad. My favorite kill actually was the raccoon that got smashed by the monster when it was, after it fell off the building. I thought that was great. I thought that was cool effects. And my least favorite kill was the same as Dustin's, the old lady at the in the woods.
Well, first of all, we're never getting that sponsorship from PETA now that you said your favorite kill was raccoon. But
Fuck PETA.
our composite score tonight then is a 8.3125. IMDb has it as a 7.5, so we're not too far off, and we know more than them. So
I was waiting for somebody to say that. Mike say, what do they know anyway?
That's what I'm saying. They're only right when they agree with me anyway.
I'm with them.
All
in
right,
the
guys. Any more final thoughts on A Quiet Place before we just shout out our blood donors and get out of here?
No, sir.
Great pick, Brian.
Yeah, I was to say, fantastic pick, man.
It's hard to say that a movie from 2018 is overdue, considering the movies we haven't done in the past. But this is one of the most popular ones of the last decade. So I mean,
and it is kind of funny that nobody, like, we're doing Monster Movie Month, but none of us picked any of the like original Universal monster movies that you would expect for. We're gonna have to do them We're gonna have to do them at some point, Nico. At some point.
You think Nico's gonna voluntarily pick a black and white movie? Come on.
The Lighthouse. If y'all ever pick Black and White Month, I'm picking The Lighthouse. I don't care about the rules. All right, let's shout out our blood donors. We really appreciate y'all. We cannot stress enough. Times are tough right now, so financial donations truly mean the world to us. It takes a big burden off of us to make and produce this podcast. Our camper level reoccurring are Clayton J, Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, and big shout out to Alex Seligson. I'm just going to shout him out right now. I'm a big sneakerhead, and he sent me some pictures of stuff he was getting rid of. Sent me a brand new pair for free. Didn't even charge me shipping, so big shout out to him. Eric Doolittle, Sean Irwin, and Adrian Aiello. Really appreciate y'all. Our camp counselor reoccurring are Hunter Nelson, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home podcast, Heather Smith, and Kylie Denise, all the way from Australia. Big shout out. Legendary blood donors we have film reviews to do for are Michael Azelson. Looking forward to that review. And our final guide donors are Christian Cunningham and Matt Sears with film reviews to do. Just want to thank y'all, all of our blood donors, one more time. Thank all of our fans. If you have an Apple product, leave us a rating on Apple Podcast or leave us a rating on Spotify. We got a perfect 5.0 on Spotify. That's awesome. But, leave us a review. It just helps us reach new people and make new fans, and we love doing that. Any final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here?
No,
Mike,
man, had a good time.
Announce your pick. Announce your pick. I forgot that. Another giant movie.
Oh, okay. So actually, I get 2 episodes next week, correct? Okay. I don't know if one's supposed to be a surprise, but we put it out anyway. So the first episode, I delayed my birthday pick from March. So we are going to be covering the Boy Meets World episode that is inspired by Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. So that shouldn't be the longest episode you've ever listened to, but I think we'll have a lot of fun. And when we announced that seemed to get a lot of feedback. People were excited about it. So I'm excited to do that. But my movie pick for Monster Month, all I'm going to say is hold on to your butts because we're doing Jurassic Park, baby. And I don't care if you think it's horror. I really don't care.
Good pick.
Because I think it falls perfectly in line with just about any other monster movie that you can review. So I completely understand if you don't think it falls under the umbrella, but I said last week on our social medias that, man, we're going to do everything in the realm. We're going to cover the whole hog. And so whether that's kids horror or right on the line where you think it's a thriller or fantastical movie or whatever, there's the debate about Jaws being horror, and I understand that one as well. And we covered that. So if we can cover Jaws, we can cover Jurassic Park because, buddy, there's a ton of dinosaurs eating people in this movie. So I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, and my birthday is coming up at the end of this week, so I got my birthday pick. I do think it's very selfish of me that I'm doing my birthday pick the same week as my birthday. We're just now getting to yours, Mike. We still haven't done yours, Brian. but you know, regardless,
Well,
we're gonna suffer through a movie for my birthday, fellas. I I
it's so
picked a
bad,
movie.
buddy. It's so
I picked a movie that I bought in 2000. When did that come out? 2006. Um, I bought it on DVD. I guess maybe 2008. It's called WrestleManiac. I love professional wrestling. Grew up loving professional wrestling. One day I'm at Walmart. I'm walking down the DVD aisle, and I see a movie called WrestleManiac. I pick it up. It's like, what the hell is this? It says Rey Mysterio on the cover, and then it's Rey Mysterio Senior is in the movie. And I've owned the DVD all this time. I watched it one and only time when I bought it. I was like, God, this is bad. And then I was like, hey, you know what? We do a horror movie podcast. Let me make my co-host suffer through it. I don't want to do it on a normal weekly review, so let's
What a
wait till my
nice guy.
birthday.
Nice
You guys
guy.
are welcome.
Very thoughtful.
I have a feeling that the
That was
Irwin
funny.
household will like this movie.
The Irwin household?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay.
Shout out to them.
if I were Rey Mysterio Jr., I wouldn't want my name associated with the guy he was named after seeing this movie. But anyway,
Wow.
All right, super excited for the upcoming reviews. It just speaks volumes on horror. WrestleManiac one week and then Jurassic Park the very next.
and don't
Two complete
forget
opposites.
Boy Meets World. Don't forget.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet, so I don't even know what to comment. Heck, one day we need to do the Urkel episode where there's Chucky and shit. And
There you
all
go.
Involved.
I'm in. Let's do it.
But anywho, thank you all the fans. We really appreciate y'all, and y'all have a good one. Just want to remind everybody.